everyone, it's Jessica, and welcome to the newest episode of Jessica Talks Veganism. Eating for our planet, Jessica spills, or me, why we should ditch dairy products. So in this episode, I will run through why we should ditch dairy from our diets. Not only is dairy environmentally unsustainable, but it poses a greater threat to human health and nutrition, and comes at the expense of bulls, or male cows, and heifers, or female cows. So let's run through some objectives for today's episode. So why do we vouch for dairy products? How do we get milk? What does this process entail? Environmental issues with dairy, ethical issues of the dairy industry, the USDA and Agricultural Secretary, Tom Vilsack, the irony in animal welfare approved, and certified humane seals, plant-based substitutes by Jessica's recommendation, and how much do I know about the dairy cows quiz? It's a quick clincher. It's like a 10-question multiple choice question, but I thought it'd be fun. So let's get to it. So why do we vouch for dairy products? So if we're going to understand the dairy industry, we need to start at its roots. So dairy products are a great source of calcium. And for these reasons, the NIH, as we know, has an ongoing history of animal cruelty, especially with monkeys. And the USDA endorse calcium products, or dairy products, I guess. So I think there's a deeper reason why the USDA supports dairy products, as the head of the USDA, or United States Department of Agriculture, is Tom Vilsack, and he is one of the head representatives of the Dairy Council. So there's this interlocking connection between dairy and our government, which means that they're more prone to, as we know, dairy industry bailouts, subsidies. This is nothing new. So this can also come into a violation of humane and animal welfare rights, and it's a very interesting idea. So we'll touch on that a little bit more when we discuss Tom Vilsack and a bunch of other environmental issues. So as we know, to reap the calcium benefits of dairy products, we need to consume 2 to 3 servings per day. That's a pretty reasonable amount. Cereal, yada, yada, yada. So dairy products also stunt high concentrations of vitamin A, vitamin B1, vitamin B6, selenium, zinc, magnesium, and so there's many more. But the caloric makeup of dairy products are pretty fair. And organic dairy products are richer in fat-soluble vitamins and also contain a higher concentration of omega-3 fatty acids. So from what we can understand, Americans and human beings' reliance on dairy products are rooted by nutritional needs and dietary, I guess. But what if I told you that this process is unnatural? What if I told you that certified RD, Delilah Basasi, confirms that consuming dairy products are directly linked with a higher risk of developing bone fractures? So dairy products, more specifically, were not made for us. They're unnatural. They were made for a calf or baby cow expected to quintuple their weight in a matter of weeks. I read this amazing post from an incredible athlete, Natalie Falco, that states that dairy products help calves go from 95 pounds to 700 pounds in a matter of months. That's crazy when you really put that into retrospect. So dairy products are also rooted in institutionalized racism. So how so? Approximately 75% of African Americans are lactose intolerant, and lactose is a sugar found in dairy products. And in many cases, dairy is specifically promoted to these communities. So despite the considerable health problems that come from consuming dairy, it's still justified through our consumption for the trivial and incomparable benefits that would otherwise come from consuming plant-based options. So it's a very interesting thing. And I would say that the most environmentally sustainable plant-based milk would be oat milk, actually. I have an almond milk, I believe, right in front of me, if I'm not mistaken. This is a great option. I love Orgain. I'll go a little bit more into depth with that. But oat milk is the most environmentally sustainable because it uses the least amount of water compared to almond milk. And you're still getting the benefit of, no animal-derived ingredients. And you can combat the ethical and environmental effects of your diet. So for our second section, we have, how do we get milk and what does this process entail? So let's talk for a hot minute about the dairy industry. So it starts at the breeding stage, where cattle are either artificially inseminated or bred naturally. So the cow gives birth to a female cow, also known as a heifer. She remains at the dairy farm until she can no longer produce milk, and then sent to the slaughterhouse. So if a cow gives birth to a male cow, also known as a bull, they offer no benefit to the dairy industry as they can't produce milk. And they are sold to farmers to be slaughtered for veal or beef. Male cows are raised on veal farms if they are decidedly chosen for this reason, and quintuple their weight from 100 pounds to 500 pounds. And when they reach 500 pounds, they are slaughtered. So they have a white, tender appearance, and they are fed low iron diets. So myoglobin is iron. It shows a concentration of iron, and it produces a red pigment in meat. So it's basically like saying that the cows are somewhat anemic or deficient. And female cattle are raised on pastures, eventually shipped to an auction lot. So baby cattle, as we probably know, with the heartless dairy industry, they're separated from their mothers at a very young age. So cattle are raised on feedlots, or CAFOs. CAFOs, as I like to say, they stand for concentrated animal feeding operations. So it's a fancy term for crammed and fenced living quarters that animals are subject to in animal agriculture. So the term feedlot is considered feedlot because animals are fed high-calorie diets to gain weight and provide more meat. So it's a very unethical way of going about things, and even there's no sustainable way to consume meat, or there's no ethical killing process. So more specifically, with this feeding process, there's a huge factor of overgrazing. So cows are fed corn and grain, and these do not make up the normal properties of a healthy diet for cows. So cows typically eat grass, and as a result of this overfeeding and this process, cows can suffer from a condition called acute acidosis. Acute acidosis is characterized by intense bloating, and it's a very unhealthy condition that's not natural. So let's get more into it. So I wanted to touch a little bit of base on cows specifically and their treatment in the dairy industry. So cows are guinea pigs to many new drugs on the market. And these, as we know, help them gain weight, provide more meat. And as a result of these new drugs, these antibiotics, basically humans can develop antibiotic resistance to penicillin and tetracycline. And these are a result of consuming dairy products. So once a female is no longer financially beneficial to the dairy industry, she's either shot or electrically stunned to death. So that's a little bit of context into the dairy industry. It's really sad. But we need to be awakened about the situations that are currently occurring. So it's a very cruel, sexist industry that abuses the female body to satisfy our desires and our demands, which are very high at the moment. So I get nervous making others uncomfortable about dietary changes, but it's absolutely necessary at this point of time. I'm going to say it's almost inexcusable to consume dairy products in 2021. There are so many alternatives on the market that taste nearly identical and pack in much more nutritional value. These are a great example. If you love yogurt, you can get Silk almond milk. I love this. It tastes exactly like traditional vanilla yogurt. If you love milk, you can just choose a plant-based option. They're right next to the other dairy products. There's so many options. And I got this amazing vegan brownie today from Organica. There's no excuses. But to get more into context, we get milk from the distribution process when it's complete. And the process of preparing milk and dairy products, as we know, takes an even larger toll on the bull and heifer body. So next, let's talk about some environmental issues with dairy. So cows produce methane, and methane is considered a greenhouse gas. Greenhouse gases trap heat in the atmosphere and lead to atmospheric heating. So runoff from factory farms and livestock have also contributed to significant pollution in lakes and rivers. There's also a huge point that I noticed when I attended one of the recent SOS meetings, and this is eutrophication in animal agriculture. So this means that there's overnutrients in the water, or in a body of water, I guess. So this is when there's excessive algal blooms and stuff of this sort, and it's very harmful to the organisms, microorganisms in the area, and it's something we really need to take into consideration. And this is directly related to the dairy effects. So that's something to consider. So if we reduce our meat consumption from beef and red meats, the IPCC, or Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, predicts that we can reduce climate change effects with this diet. And I wouldn't say predicts, actually. I'd say they actually literally say it. More benefits include water conservation and improved topsoil within soil. So let's talk about some ethical issues of the dairy industry. So I really like this new idea of bringing to light more of the horrors of the dairy industry. So this is more specifically seen with the students opposing speciesism. So students opposing speciesism is an awesome hub. They extend over the United States, and you can find one in your area on their local map, and it's incredible. I totally recommend if you're within the age group to sign up for one. But they have this incredible new campaign, The Hers Not Yours, End to Dairy, which is pretty awesome. So I want to speak out a little bit about some common misconceptions when choosing dairy products. So sometimes there's this promise of cage-free. It sounds like something we see on the shelf, cage-free eggs. Okay, what immediately comes to mind when you hear that? Cage-free. Maybe they're scrolling around a field. They have a lot of land, a lot of space, and their quality of life is pretty high, pretty awesome. But cage-free simply means that they keep the animals in larger cages or in pens with hundreds of other animals. The conditions are terrible, terrible, terrible. Cage-free does not mean that the animals live long, healthy lives. So choosing the cage-free option also comes with a side of cruelty, because when poultry are refined to larger or open pen areas, I guess with other chickens, their beaks are mutilated so that they do not attack one another or come and cause any damage, which is pretty upsetting. And another misconception is this notion of free-range poultry. So this is very similar to the cage-free philosophy, and this is exactly what the USDA wants you to believe. But around 99.9% of chickens and cows or cattle raised for beef and poultry in the United States are raised in factory farm conditions. So this is no beautiful landscape on the milk container. This is more of like 20,000 animals in this very tiny area. And I'll get more into depth with the spacing and the humane restrictions, which are totally bonkers. So we'll get into that. But your average Joe farmer could have 20,000 chickens at once in this small one facility area, which is ridiculous. And this can really bring into retrospect and will bring into light how these animal welfare approved and certified humane seals, they're absolutely thrown out the door. I would most certainly think that when you go into these large area pens, of course, you see those documentaries with those chickens, those dead chickens on the floor, succumb to disease, death, of course. And it's very disheartening to see that with these promises of living a perfect cage-free lifestyle. So we really need to be aware about these things. And there's also a huge feminine aspect of the dairy industry. The dairy industry is anti-feminist and outright sexist. And this is because they artificially inseminate cows to reach the human demand. And this is similar to Alfred Marshall's law of supply and demand. And this abuse of the human body, the female body, is done without consent. And this is something that I consider, and a lot of activists consider, a huge problem. And we really need to address it. So the next thing I want to talk about is the USDA and Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack. Okay, so this is a big one. So I remember when Biden was elected into office, he was considering Tom Vilsack to appoint for the USDA for another term. For 8 years, he served under Tom Vilsack was the head of the USDA for President Obama for 8 years, which is a lot. And Tom Vilsack, as I previously mentioned, he was the head of the Dairy Council. The Dairy Council endorses a lot of harmful practices, abuse of cows and other animals in the animal agriculture industry, I guess. So it's really disheartening to hear that. And Tom Vilsack, the brains behind this operation, he continually supported the dairy industry with the USDA as a result of his previous connections. So Tom Vilsack, as we know, he was appointed, but there was a better person that we were urging, a lot of activists, for a multitude of reasons. Marcia Fudge was a close friend of Joe Biden, and Marcia Fudge was elected into a different position. It doesn't come off to the top of my head right now, but I can probably post it later, but very interesting. And she was chosen for a different position, even though she was more qualified for this. And his continued support and Tom Vilsack's previous effects on the animal agriculture industry through destroying our environment, raising, global warming has become much more of an issue in the last decade, and it's only going to rise. And he essentially had deteriorated the country with animal agriculture and harmful practices. So I'm going to touch a little bit more on Fairlife, the company and their affiliates, I guess, a little later. So next, I wanted to touch a little bit of base on. I wanted to touch a little bit of base on Vilsack's violation of human rights too. So Vilsack does not only violate humane promises to the USDA, but he encouraged the sale of pink slime. Pink slime is essentially leftover flesh from slaughtered cows, and it's a potential. He served it in a way as a potential food source to consumers and schools. Not only is this disgusting, but it's outright infuriating, I guess. So not only is Vilsack accused of these disgusting leftover meat practices, he's also wrongfully discriminated against black farmers. The USDA has disproportionately funded black farmers over white farmers. And even though Vilsack specifically mentioned in his promise for serving his position, I guess, his new term, to help the black farmers specifically, he continued to disproportionately help the white farmer. And this really hurt his campaign, and it really shows his racist tendencies, I guess. So third-party organizations, as I know, pay off, and you probably know as I explained, pay off the USDA, or typically give them a slap of the wrist for violating these humane conducts of animal welfare issues, I guess, in the context of animal agriculture. So that's a little bit about Tom Vilsack. It's sour taste for a multitude of reasons. So let's get into the irony in animal welfare approved and certified humane seals. So the animal welfare approved and certified humane seals are absolute garbage, absolute bogus. So they are really similar to Seaspiracy's mention of sustainable fishing promise. So there's this idea in sustainable fishery that you can capture fish at a sustainable yield. A sustainable yield is basically the highest number of fish we can pull out of the ocean for them to be able to replenish their numbers at the same rate. So this promise of sustainable fishing was completely blown out of proportion and surprisingly unfollowed even at a government rate. So we can see that, these seals are absolute bogus. And essentially, you can really understand that these are really marketing ploys to consumers to buy their products. So, not to mention, the animal welfare pledges are completely hypocritical. So, the claims that they establish to define what is animal welfare, what is good treatment of animals, is completely crazy. So I'm going to get a little bit into that, but essentially we do not have autonomy over other animals' bodies to choose whether they live, they die, or for our ultimate pleasure. And to be completely honest, it never made any sense to me for most of the dairy and meat industry stuff, even from the beginning of my vegetarianism. When I initially became vegetarian at a very young age because it never made sense to me. For example, when you're sitting in front of dinner, at dinner time, and you have 300 calories of chicken in front of you, let's just mention that. And that's probably going to give you 3-4 hours of energy, I guess, before it's going to be completely digested and, another burst of hunger, I guess. But to put that into effect, essentially, 3 to 4 hours of energy for your body, was that worth a lifetime of suffering, a lifetime of cruelty? No, it never was, and it never will be. So that's what I really like to think about. But essentially, as I said before, the humane idea of slaughter, there's no humane aspect of slaughtering another animal. And that's why I think that these certified humane pledges and seals are complete lies. They're complete bogus. And it's really personal to each person, I guess. It's a very controversial topic. And I think that it really shouldn't be, essentially. But under this philosophy of blind loyalty, pledges grant each hen a whopping 1.8 square feet of indoor space. So the animal welfare seals of treating an animal in the right way say that if a hen has 1.8 square feet of space, that's considered good. I remember when I was younger, these American Girl dolls were 18 inches tall. That's 1.5 feet. And those things were really small. They're shorter than my shoe to my knee. And considering that is the space allotted per hen, who is creating these standards? It's absolutely ridiculous. That's nothing. And to consider the requirements, the energy requirements, the activity requirements of a hen. I own some birds for my family. I nourish them. I treat them carefully, and I make sure to set an example as an owner for other animals. And when I think about the conditions that these animals are subject to, my bird, for example, Gucci, she's the head of my website. She requires hours of activity every day, and you really have to stay on top of the feeding process, the replenishing the water. It's so important, and it needs to be done at least twice a day to really obtain optimal nutrition and optimal health. Really altogether. So thinking about how these farmers are treating these other birds, these poultry, these cows, it really makes me angry. Because, and not only speaking from experience, as I said before, like a pet owner, but speaking from the experience of a consumer. So I think that's utterly ridiculous, and I thought that I'd put it into perspective. So the next section we have are plant-based substitutions by Jessica's recommendation. So I have some awesome substitutes here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them. So first we have Orgain almond milk. So I usually get this nice carton-sized one. It's a lot smaller than the typical gallon milk carton, I guess. But these have biodegradable packaging. It's very nice, and cardboard is somewhat biodegradable. For the most part, it's a very good product, and Orgain is a great company to support. I love their products because they're fortified with lots of healthy nutrients, vitamins, but also for what they stand for. Recently, they created this pledge for 5% of their total sales of all products from September to August that they will be collecting and donating to children in poverty-stricken areas to provide more insight and products into plant-based nutrition. I think that's incredible. I love the initiative, and I think that more companies need to step up in that way and set an example, especially for plant-based nutrition. That's incredible. And I was really disappointed in hearing about the Fairfield's, I believe it's Fairfield or Fairlife. I think it's Fairlife, actually. Fairlife milk products. There was a huge a lawsuit action. And this involves, along the lines of promising these awesome care, the ultimate support of their animals in captivity. I'm going to say captivity. It's essentially what it is. And keeping these animals in there that they're raised in perfect conditions. And after being exposed to what their conditions actually entailed, what it looked like for an actual animal there, they were sued on the behalf of a consumer, an angry consumer. I applaud the consumer. That's awesome. Standing up for, seeing a discrepancy in the products that you're receiving and you're paying so much money for. And this ultimately led Fairfield, which was purchased by Coca-Cola, to no surprise. But this is a real difference between the two companies. And this is really why we should support and purchase plant-based products like Orgain that set an example for future audiences and, younger folk, I guess. I don't know. Is that the right word? So next we have Silk. So if you're looking for a great example of yogurts, I really recommend this kind. I buy these all the time. They're pretty large serving, pretty nice. They have 5 grams of protein for one of them. These aren't typically protein products, I guess. And they're rich in probiotics, which are awesome. They help regulate the flora or stomach bacteria, which is awesome. And they're dairy-free, certified by the vegan organization. And they're pretty moderate in calories and 1 gram of saturated fats. Saturated fats and trans fats are the worst kinds of fats. They should be kept in moderation. For saturated fats, maybe like 18 to 22 grams per day. But it really depends on you. But this is a great product. Next, I like to talk about fun foods. So I went to the store today, Organica. It's an awesome store. There's a bunch all over the country, and even at Whole Foods and ShopRite, they have awesome vegan options. No excuses. But this is a brownie. It's vegan, no nuts. Awesome. It's like $3. But it's a pretty big brownie, I guess. I don't know really now. It's awesome. You can always find great bakes, I guess, and there's always great options. So the next thing I brought with me is tempeh. I'm addicted to tempeh at the moment. It's a great protein source. And I use the original one, and it's already somewhat cooked, I guess. So if you really wanted to, you don't really have to fully go on and cook it, I guess. But if you put a little bit of oil, marinate it to your liking, you can really whip up some awesome things with it. It's a great protein source, and it's also very calorically healthy and in a great sense. So 3 ounces is 160 calories, and this makes this entire container. I could probably say less than 400 calories, which is pretty awesome. So it's filling, it's satiating, and you get the benefit of the doubt. So let's take the quiz that I'm really excited about. How much do I know about dairy cows? So let's see. I know quite a bit about them already because I am in a bunch of different meetings I attended. They were talking about cool fun facts about dairy cows. So we'll see how much I know. Okay, perfect. Okay, take our quiz. Here at Dairy Good, cows are pretty special. It's not only because thanks to them we can enjoy milk, cheese, yogurt, ice cream, and other treats, but they're also fascinating animals. Test your knowledge on facts about dairy cows below. Okay, true or false? Cows can walk up the stairs, but not down. That's question 1. I'm going to say true. Okay, I got that one right. It says... So it says true. Cows' knees can't bend the way that they would need to walk downstairs. So for the next question we have, cows spend X hours eating and X hours chewing their cud each day. I don't know what cud is. Is that a reference to their food? I know cows consume naturally grass, but they're fed grain and corn in factory farm conditions. But the options are 10, 12, 8, 10, 6, 8, and 4, 6. I was told when you're in doubt to choose option C. I don't know if that's the best advice, but I'm going to go with C. I got it right. That's awesome. So it says, here's a bonus fact. The average cow chews at least 50 times per minute. That's interesting. Every day, cows drink about blank gallons of water. 25, 35, 45, or 55. I have no idea. 1 gallon's still a lot. That's crazy. But cows have much larger bodies. I'm going to go with 45. I guess option C. Let's see. Oh, no. That was wrong. The correct answer was 35. I should have gone with C again. Crazy. So the explanation is that's about the same amount as a bathtub full of water. Oh, that's interesting. So the next question is, some cows wear pedometers, which can track until it counts steps. How many steps the cow takes, the cow's overall health, how much milk the cow gives, all the above. I'm going to say all of the above. I know it's specifically, it refers specifically to A, but I'm going to take a risk. I got it right. That's awesome. So the explanation is farmers watch for variations in the cow's data, which may signal she's not feeling well. Okay. So today it takes less than X minutes to milk a cow. I know this is less than 5 minutes. I visited a dairy farm for one of my projects. Okay, I got it right. That's awesome. Oh, apparently there are 8 questions, 3 left. Okay. So it says the explanation is before milking machines were invented, farmers could only milk about 6 cows per hour. Wow. On average, dairy cows eat about blank pounds of feed each day. 50, 75, 100, or 125 pounds of feed each day. I'm going to go with C because it's been working somewhat in my favor. 100 pounds of feed each day? That sounds pretty realistic. I mean, considering how much water they consume. That's about, it's less than a fourth of that. Okay. I'm going to go with 100. Okay, I got it right. That's awesome. So it says the explanation is they eat hay, grain, and many things people can't, like almond hulls. Okay. Wait, grain? That's not a natural part of the cow diet. That can lead to ketoacidosis. Okay. Whatever. I think this is made from a dairy farm. UndeniablyDairy.com, of course. Okay. Dairy farms have blank stomach compartments. 1, 2, 3, or 4. I remember they told me this before. It's 4 stomach compartments. Okay, I got it. I don't know the parts specifically, but it notes them here. They include the rumen, reticulum, omasm and obamism. Abomism. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'm sorry if I'm botching it. And finally, cows can smell things up to blank away. So 6 yards, 6 blocks, 6 miles, or 6 states. 6 states, no. That's immediately no. 6 yards, I think it could be a little bit further. 6 blocks, I don't think so. But I'm going to go with 6 miles. That's far, but, you know, cows and a lot of other animals exploited for the dairy industry are pretty incredible. So 6 miles. Okay, I got it right. So the explanation is talk about having a great sense of smell. That's definitely true. That's awesome. So it says you got 7 out of 8 correct. Legendary. So that's awesome. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and ditch the dairy. Bye.